Hey guys, Wax here from I'm just kidding with you. Hello everyone, my name is Alex. Welcome back to 70-Second Vipers. Today we're going to be learning how to cold start the AH-64D. Now, one thing to keep in mind with this tutorial, this is not the proper official way to start it. This is just a quick and fast and simple way to get this aircraft fully operational and ready to run. So first thing we're going to do is just close our door because this is a multiplayer server and there are many different helicopters around me, so it's going to get quite noisy. So we're going to set this master ignition thing to battery. If you have an external power source hooked up, you would click it to external power. We're going to flip up this lid and start up the APU. You can see the beautiful flame there. That's where the APU exhaust is, right behind these little, behind the exhaust vents. So over here you can see APU start. Once APU start turns off, that means the APU is fully running, as well as all the systems are going to light up and everything. So we'll just reset the master cautions and everything. The AH-64 works very similar to the A10, meaning all the systems can run solely off the APU, and the engines don't actually have to be running to power up anything beside hydraulics. So first thing we're going to do is, much like any modern aircraft, we're going to start aligning the INS. Very simply, just click Doppler, and I like to reset the two INUs. So now it's going to start aligning itself with the Earth, basically. You don't have to do anything besides that. Now you just have to wait for these numbers to turn green. I like to just set the time to local. It just simply sets the time back. It's not required. Next, I like to go into show on the TSD as well. Coordinate show and friendly enemy planned TGTS and threats. This is just, I like to just, when the TSD is up, I like to have a good reference of where everything is. This is completely optional, but the TSD will become fully mapped out once the INS and INU systems align. So that's pretty much it with the INS. You just have to click Doppler and everything does it from there. I'm going to turn on the missile system and I click on bypass. This is just, it just tests itself. Not a big deal. It's optional, but I run it. And then you can test your fire channels. Of course, that's completely optional. And if you want to get rid of that voice that says everything, just click Master Warning or Master Caution to reset it. Next, I like to have a little lighting and external lights to turn on. This is like all your nav lights and everything. And we're going to continue waiting for the INS to start lining up. As we're waiting for that, we're going to go back into the menu and click Fuel. We're going to hit COX. That essentially links up all the tanks with each other. And that just makes sure everything's all balanced and nicely. So we're going to go ahead and back into TSD and utility, and we're going to continue waiting for the thing to line up. These numbers will become green once the aircraft's ready for takeoff. As we're waiting, we're going to start firing up the number 2 engine. Of course, it's optional which engine you want to fire up. We're going to wait for the percentage to be around 18 to 22%, and then we're just going to, much like the F-18 Hornet, right shift home to uncage the right throttle. And it's going to be right alt home to engage the left throttle by default. But right now we're only starting up the right engine. You can hear the beautiful Apache sound. Sweet. Very simply, to go over stuff, right here, this is going to be your 2 engine percentage RPMs. This is your rotor RPM. These are your EGT values for each engine. And this is your torque values for each engine, very simply. And you can go into the systems page to view all your temperatures and all that good jazz. And once this engine stabilizes at its idle RPM and everything, we're going to do the same for the left engine. See the oil pressure start to build, as well as the EGT and soon the RPM. Now we're going to uncage the left throttle by pushing right alt home by default. You're going to hear engine out. Very simply, just reset the warning, not a big deal. And you'll see the proper RPM is going to start coming up slowly. Now these are at idle, so don't touch the throttle for a little bit. One thing to keep in mind, this is the only aircraft that you have to watch the oil pressure has to go down below a certain point. In this case, it's 70 psi. You shouldn't throttle up your engines unless your oil pressure for both engines are below 70. That's what I'm doing, and it just over time drops down like as in real life as the oil gets thicker. can see that over here. Now we just have to wait for the INS to get itself going. It takes the longest at first, but after about a minute or two from this point on, it should any second start to align itself. Oh, there you go. Right there, turn green. We have to wait a little bit longer, but technically at this point this is a rough alignment and you're clear to take off. But you have to wait for these numbers to preferably get into the 0.00 range. But this is not required. Once the numbers are green, you're good to take off. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to slowly throttle it up to about, I would say, 70% throttle. You can hear the beautiful Apache sound, and you're going to wait for this number to approximately reach 95. And once you see this little thin line emerge, that means the generators are technically active, and now we're safe to shut off the APU and let the engine generators take over. You got APUs now off, and the generators of the engines are took over. So once the rotor RPM gets above 95 and into the green, that means the generators are good to take over. And now we're going to very lightly pull up the controls menu and put a little bit left rudder and gently increase the collective. And there you go. Now we're going to touch this thing down. And there you go. That's about it. That's all there is to really take off with the bird, and when I land I tend to drop the engine throttle down a little bit. But not to the point where it kills the screens, because it wreaks all kind of havoc on the systems when you run out of electricity and start back up. And that's pretty much all there is to it, to the cold start and takeoff to it, and that's really it. Of course you have your iHads. You can get rid of it by pushing I and show it by pushing I, and that's it. That's really all there is to it. I hope this was useful to you guys, and have a good one. Goodbye.